Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. My name is Claire. I'm gonna be real with y'all. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. Still waiting for my coffee to do what I need it to do to wake me up for this video. But we're gonna charge on because I really want to get this up for you guys. So today we're talking about mugwort. I'm sitting beside this really beautiful, like 6 foot tall mugwort invader, and it's fantastic. I think this is like the 4th or 5th time that I've tried to do this video. And it occurred to me that maybe part of the problem is that mugwort is what's called a hypnotic, so it actually helps you sleep. I'm not sure if it's helping or hindering my presence of mind right now, but whatever. It's a lot of fun. It's good. It's great. Okay, so let's talk about the name. Artemisia vulgaris. Artemis, goddess of the moon. Artemisia. Plants that are sacred to the moon, plants that have a lot to do with cycles. This plant specifically is very helpful as a hormonal regulator, so the menstrual cycle. This plant is going to be super good if people with uteruses, when the menstrual flow is very scanty, there isn't a lot of blood, and you can't really predict when it's going to happen. You know, it's like it was 25 days last month, and this month we're looking at 40 days, and there doesn't seem to be a real balance or a rhyme or reason. Artemisia is really, really helpful in this way to come in and set a rhythm, set a cycle, get it really back on track. And I can't emphasize enough how much it's useful for people who have light menses. If your cycle is really, really heavy and like floody, it can exacerbate that and make it a little bit heavier. So just be aware with that before you go and take Herculean amounts of mugwort, please. This plant is also a really fantastic and really helpful digestive plant. So it does a few things in the digestive system. So it stimulates digestion. It's a carminative, so I've talked about that word before, just meaning it'll come in and relieve any sort of gas and bloating and take things back into like a more comfortable sort of situation. It also is what's called an orexigenic. So what that word means is it'll stimulate the appetite. And I really, really like using this plant this way, and I actually use it more this way than I do in like any other way, because I'm one of those people where when I get into one of my research rabbit holes, like this past week, for me, I found a book online that was like, let's talk about quercetin. And I was like, yes, let's. I don't actually understand this enough. I do now, because 6 hours later, I know everything about quercetin. What I didn't know was how to eat. Okay, so that energetic of like, you've been studying for 6 hours, you're really, really in the zone, but somewhere in that process, it's become, you've become disconnected in some way to what your physical needs are. I really, really like Artemisia for that, because it does come in and it brings this sort of like nice gentle grounding. It's a bitter as well, so bitters will stimulate the secretion of digestive enzymes, which is really helpful. It sort of like wakes up the stomach and wakes up the digestion to say, oh, food is on its way, like get ready for this beautiful meal that we're about to give you. And it stimulates the appetite. So I think of it as really helpful for that person who's very like mentally acute, but sometimes forgets to eat. We've all been there, I'm sure. Well, maybe not all of us, but I mean, if that's you, then anyways, mugwort, very helpful. What else can I say about this? There is a lot that it helps with dreaming. This is gonna kind of segue more into the magical thing, so I'll just kind of like wrap up by saying like there is a lot more that this plant will do physiologically. It's kind of outside the scope of this video though, so I just hope that you'll make friends with it physiologically in one of those two regards. Magically, I associate this plant with the Moon Tarot card. This is the moon from the Flux Arcana by Micah Ulrich, which I'm fucking obsessed with this deck. It's great. I have absolutely never connected to a deck the way that I connect to this deck, but when we think about the tarot moon card, what often comes up is what comes up out of the subconscious. What do we not acknowledge all the time? really talking about things that are fearful, things that activate a sense of fear in us, things that when they rise up from the subconscious, we have to acknowledge them and we have to deal with them in a way. I think of this a lot of the times for when you know something is up in your environment, but you can't quite put a name to it. You can't quite articulate why it feels off, or like what it is about a certain situation maybe. Like, why am I being activated in this way? Those kind of underlying sense of unease that can be really, really clearly brought up to the surface to deal with mugwort. And I will have to say, baby, you have got to be ready for the changes that this plant will do in your life. It's one of the plants that a lot of baby witches, a lot of herbalists fall in love with, and we never fall out of love with, because it is, to me, incredibly emancipating. It will take you by the hands, or by the foot if you're feeling stubborn, like some of us, and it will show you face to face, often in the dream time, through a dream, this is the situation that you are avoiding. This is what needs to be confronted. And it can oftentimes bring up conflicts that you maybe would rather not acknowledge. And it will do it in a way that is very, very direct. So I'm just saying that is like, before you work with this plant, do expect to sort of have a little bit of a soul journey with it. Do expect to do a bit of shadow work. It is also extremely spiritually protective. So if you're on my channel and you watched the sage video and then like noticed that it disappeared like 12 hours later, yeah, that happened, because I like woke up in a cold sweat like 2 o'clock in the morning and was like, there was incorrect information in that video. Oh my God, what do I do? So I just took it down. But in that video, I talked a lot about the practice of smudging and how, as a white settler, that feels really inappropriate to me because, it's a very sacred practice, and I have never had an Indigenous person like teach me about it. Never had somebody walk me through that in that way. So to me, I think of just like cleansing herbs is a more respectful way for us to approach the practice of like using smoke to rid our space of unwanted spiritual energies. And actually mugwort has a really long historical use for doing that. So that's super helpful. What I'm gonna do as soon as I'm done this video is I'm gonna harvest a whole bunch like this. I'm gonna wrap it in twine, clockwise going down and counterclockwise going up. And then I will burn this when it's dried as a cleansing herb. And it has something in it. I think it's the thuyon, but I mean, like, spiritually, obviously there's more, but there is, what does this plant do? What do you do? You're amazing. When burned, when committed to flame and offered into smoke, which is how I think of burning herbs. You're making an offering. You're making a deal with a plant. I think of this as when the smoke comes into our space, there's an awakening, sort of an enhancement of cognition. It's also, I don't know if I said this again, because this is like the 3rd or 4th time that I filmed this video. Thanks, coffee. It's a nerve tonic. So what that really means is it'll come into a nervous system that's like frazzled and all over the place and really stressed out, and bring it back down to that place where everything's good, man. Everything's good. And I think that's part of why it's been used so long as a cleansing herb, because it does come into our spaces and sort of like give us that awakening. It'll brighten our awareness up, bring us into the moment, get us grounded, which is like the whole point of having herbs in a lot of ways, I think. Yeah, I love this plant. I absolutely love this plant. It's delicious in a tea. If you don't want to be using it as a cleansing herb, it's delicious in a tea. I'll also use this as a culinary herb as well. So I'll put this into my stews a lot of the time. I've made like pestos with mugwort before, and that's delicious. Nettle and mugwort pesto is like, wow, so yummy. And it's also really nice for like flavoring soups and stuff. So like, don't be afraid to use it as a culinary plant as well as a medical plant and a spiritually protective plant. It's got it all, baby. Yeah, this is where we end off this video, I think. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have any questions, as always, please leave it in the comment section and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, go out and meet Mugwort. Go get to know yourself better with her guiding hands, and I'll see you next time. Bye.